In 1945, when the Second World War ended, leaving a huge amount of destruction, the death toll was estimated from 60 to 83 million people in various parts of the world. Here the world was divided in two parts, a capital section led by the United States of America and another section led by the Soviet Union. The two countries competed for world leadership in various economic and politics fields, but the unrest remained the most important. Then the two countries competed to possess the largest possible Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing more than 150,000 residents in the two cities, and many devastating weapons possessed by the two regimes and a few other countries that won the Second World War. Here begins a war of another kind, which is the Cold War, that lasted 45 years. Both sides fought a proxy war, such as the one that broke out in Afghanistan when the Soviet forces invaded Afghan land, trying to restore the rule of the country's president, who was loyal to her. So the people turned against him. Then America supported the Afghan Mujahideen in confronting the Soviet forces. A war that lasted for 7 years, killing hundreds of thousands until the Soviet withdrew from Afghan land. And that war that was about to break out in Syria and her ally, the Soviet Union, against America and her military allies, NATO, the North Atlantic, is led by America and most of the countries of Europe. But the negotiations were able to resolve that crisis in its final stage before the war broke out. As for the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, it was about to detonate a nuclear war face-to-face when the Soviet Union wanted to establish a military base in Cuba, which is close to America and its allies, and place a nuclear missile in response to those nuclear weapons that America deployed in Turkey, which is close to the Soviet Union. The war was about to break out, but the negotiations were able to solve the problem again. As for the economy, America was able to overcome its opponent in this aspect because the system is based on the freedom of ownership for citizens of a real estate, homes or whatever, while the communist system in the Soviet Union does not allow this. Everything belonged to the state and the ruling party. And according to the advantages of the two systems, the world has been divided in two: those who follows America and its capitalist system, and whoever followed the Soviet Union and its communist regime. A simple example of that, Yemen before unification. The country of the South was the only country in the region that followed the communist Soviet Union, and the North followed the capitalist system led by America. And the conflict between the two systems continued until the year 1990. When America was able to dismantle the Soviet Union to small countries, the most important of which is the Russian Federation, which will inherit everything from its greatest legacy, the Soviet Union, from weapons of mass destruction, and it will inherit the lion's share of the land and the visit area. In the last 30 years, and after the collapse of the Soviet Union, America was able to spread its system and increase the country loyal to it in many parts of the world, until it reached Ukraine, the country that belonged to the former Soviet Union. In 1994, Ukraine was one of the participating countries in the Budapest Memorandum, the agreement that provided for the profession of Ukraine with the security guarantees regarding its accession to the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons as a non-nuclear weapon country. It handed over its nuclear weapons to Russia, but now After 30 years of the dissolution of the Union, Ukraine wants to join NATO and visit the wilderness with the Russian land, and joining to the allies mean the NATO weapons would be in its gates and in its border directly because of Ukraine's interest in joining the alliance. Russia intervenes militarily, defending its interests and preventing Ukraine from joining the alliance. So, a field war erupted 2 years ago, and it's still continuing today. Russia threatens day after day to use nuclear weapons if the war continues for a long time. Here, the countries of the old continent stand and support Ukraine with all kinds of advanced and modern weapons, and it imposes a harsh sanction on Russia and its companies in order to isolate it from the world. However, the old continent remains in complete need of gas and Russian oil, will yield to the demand of Russian Federation, which threatens and has already begun to cut off gas and oil from Europe until it acquiesces to it and pay for gas and oil in Russian rubles. Now, the balance of the global system began to tilt toward the Russian Federation after it was unable during the last decade to respond to the capitalist system. And I believe that the world has become tired of America and its tampering with many countries, such as its destruction of Afghanistan during the past 20 years, its destruction of Iraq, and the economy of Venezuela, which was the richest country in South America had America not fighted. Here, the role of Arab and their leaders appears in favoring the balance of power. Is it for the capitalist West, which countries and people are dispersed with, or for the East, led by the Russian Federation and China?